Oh, we're just dying then for a minute. Sorry. Evening, chaps. Welcome to another session from the Wise Asylum. Ooh, the blonde bombshells got in. Oh, King Cyrus is back. Ooh, what do we think? What do we think? Oh, let's say, what do we know? Atlas don't know, do they? But already, see the signs of dictatorship are building. He's already had it out that Iran tried to kill him. He's already made a speech about Iran so he can see where it's going. I said, didn't I earlier you forget Russia? Russia's just doing a game to take away the breadbasket from Europe and expand the landmass for the ruling elite that run Israel. It's all about Iran. And he's putting the National Guard across the nation. He says, so that people can sue their officials for all this malarkey. For all these lies and fibs that they've told in relation to what he himself set going. Warp speed. I mean, it's... How are people not seeing this? How are people not actually seeing this gig? I mean, to be honest, I'm glad he's got in because it's going to change the whole movie now. Now the movie's going to get exciting. And they've already started. You can see it. Amsterdam. Oh dear, look what's happening. Gangs of marauding Muslims attacking Jewish people. And then Amsterdam said, well, we've failed the Jewish community. You can see the turnaround kicking. It's going to kick in. It's coming. So they're getting everything ready and prepped. It's all going down. Jimmy Savile's vagina, adamant that the pensioners are not going to get the winter fuel allowance. You've got to turn things off, like your telly. Well, if you turn your telly off, vagina, you're not be able to program them, will you? So, I think he knows that they're not going to turn the telly off. Might shoot dog and cat. Save on meat. But, in fact, he's selling it to some of these immigrants. They'll eat them. Cook them on payment, even. Have you seen that? Have you seen that cooking your dog and cat on payment? It's not good, is it? It's just... But already, he's not even cracked off yet, and he's already National Guard everywhere. The green scam's being thrown asunder. I can't see how that's going to work. Is this just more blag? More wind and piss to keep the hapless confounded, but you can see this game moving now. They're moving everything ready to set in this martial law after we get some fun and games down there in the Middle East. Oh, it's all showing itself. I can see it plain as day. It's just so plain. So, dictatorship, of course, has to be the theme of tonight. But I haven't done anything this week. I've been so busy. I haven't managed to do nothing for this live stream. So, the floor is yours, ladies and gentlemen. We can chit-chat about whatever nonsense you want to chit-chat. We can delve into La La Land if you like, the lunatic asylum. Or you can stay in the Wise Asylum and we can talk about groovy stuff. But Sean Ross did an interesting video. I've not actually completed it, but giving you a rundown or a lowdown on the meaning of the name Keir Starmer, or Jimmy Savile's vagina, as we affectionately know it. Very interesting, I have to say. And he cites July the 14th as a date specifically to bloodbaths. And of course he went through the order of the bath. Now, a slightly different angle to mine, but doesn't matter. But I think when it comes to history, the one thing I learned many moons ago when I thought I was quite an accomplished historian, to be fair, then started to recognise and realise this Prussian gig. Because it's omitted from all history, and this Prussian scenario is so vast and it misses the whole game, and people think it's Germanic, it's the Germans, when in fact what the Prussian Massive was and is a re-amalgamation of all the knightly orders subject to the Vatican State. And they called themselves the Prussians after they took over Prussia. And people don't see this, and it changes the whole historic sort of context, because everything that we've held as our heritage in all our nations in Europe, our symbolism, etc., and orders, have all been changed over these times, and they mean something completely different to what they originally meant. And Sean was specifically pointing out that the motto for the Order of the Bath, I serve, but it's in German, which is odd. But then not when you're trying to blame everything on the world on the Germans. But originally, when it was set up under James, he changed it slightly, but originally it wasn't I serve. That wasn't his motto. And I forgot what it is, actually. In fact, hang on a minute, because I can do this, can't I? Because I'm clever. I keep forgetting I'm clever, and so if I can do this, can't I? So, what are you doing? Stupid machine. Where is it? Well, how do we supposed to search? If you're not giving me... Right, well, let's go up here. Order of the back. No keyboard. Oh, see, I talk too soon. I'm actually thick. I bet you already know that. So I'm using... I can't multitask like this. It's just a bit too beyond my wit. Order of the Bath. So if I bring that up. But its original motto wasn't I serve. Memory serves me well. But you can see how it's been changed all the time. They're always changing it. Each time another bunch gets stuck into somebody's country, they just change the whole gig. All your symbolism, all its meanings and everything like that. And they don't tell you. So it's no wonder we're all a bit at a loss. We actually what was going down. So we know that it was came out of the order of the chivalry founded by King George I. Oh, this is the Honourable Order of the Bath. Civil servants, military, blah, 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 blah. And it says here, of which ritual bathing is a symbol of purification. A likely story. So it was Knights of the Bath originally in Middle Ages, so they keep changing it. They're always changing the thing, so it doesn't today have its original meaning. So originally, Middle Ages, it was an item that was often conferred with elaborate ceremonies. These usually involved the knight to be taking a bath, symbolic of spiritual purification. There they have to get in again. But then it probably did back then, because the inner city temple wasn't Solomon's temple, as we've looked at before. It was dedicated to Mary, the mother of the geezer. So they keep changing it. And it's, what we're dealing with now, we're dealing entirely with this gig after the Prussians took over, basically, the entire landmass of Europe. They took over the entire landmass of Russia, the Crimea. They took over Blighty with the Hanoverians, and then they shifted over into the US, to Canada, to Australia, and pretty much everywhere else. Why? Because, of course, they're the Holy See's military knight orders. So I'm just trying to find what its original motto was, but it wasn't I serve. So they change it. They keep changing it. And It's the Order of the Dragon that's missing, and it is missing from all this data as well, that ties today's elites with this Order of the Bath. Rather, not Order of the Bath, the most honourable Order of the Bath that it's now called. It was just Knights of the Bath before. So since the Order of the Dragons got involved, it has a different meaning. And then we looked at the Bathories, didn't we? But anyway, so it's interesting what Sean's actually come up with, in truth. So it's worth watching if you haven't watched his video. Very well worth a gander, because he comes up some very interesting data, especially in relation to what the Keir Stormer actually means. He's tied him to the Knights Templar Swiss families. He goes through as well how so many of these elites from Switzerland have been coming here to Blighty, especially since the Civil War, and we're none the wiser. Leicester Square, almost entirely dedicated to these night flea bags back in the day. Same in the US, pretty much everywhere, and these are the people that have put in the positions of power. So we can see that, you know, it's like we're at the ground level, everybody's stuck in it. It's Christianity versus Islam versus Judaism, blah, 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 blah. When in fact, the subject of this attack by these nightly orders has actually been Judaism, Christianity and Islam. And we looked at Sabotage Heavy the other week. That's the method by which they got first into Judaism, because he had a lot of followers, but then the real Jews were having it. And then as he ended up in Islam. And Jacob Frank then came along as it all being reborn, and he did the same into Catholicism. So you can see that it's another raft beyond the three religions, you might say, that are actually, well, have successfully, you might say, reinvigorated these religions to be more in tune with what we know as the Talmud. Blood and guts, conquer, murder, we're better than you, our dick's bigger than yours, my dad's bigger than your dad, kind of thing. And that's pretty much what's running these religions at its power levels. I mean, on the ground, we've said before, your average Jew, your average Muslim, your average Christian, they don't really give a shit about wanting to hate each other. They just want to bring the family up. They want to see the kids grow, and they want to see them do well. And then they want to retire and chill out or whatever they do. It's at the top where all this shenanigans is going on. This is where all the psychopaths exist and live. So you've got your Christian Zionists running amok at the top of Christianity. You've got your Mujahideen, you've got your Taliban, you've got your ISIS, your ISIL. They're the psychopaths running the top end of the Islam. And then you've got the rabbinic Rebbe followers like Abad Lubavitch and all these folks. Pretty much dragging all the Jews by the neck everywhere. Somebody telling me off. I serve Ich Din, says Frank. Yep. Thanks for that. Ich Din. Well, yeah, but it's not actually its original motto. Just like the temple that is in the inner city of London that's about to move to Kazakhstan isn't the original temple. The original temple that the Templars set up in London was dedicated to Mary, Mother of Jesus. And all of a sudden it's become Solomon's temple, and nobody noticed. Except the wise asylum. We notice. We don't miss these kind of things. So interesting stuff if you think about it in terms of how it's this whole game, regardless of which religion you adhere to. has got to this point because you're all thick. Because none of you understand your own doctrine. Why? Because you're copying. You're listening and copying, taking it on, accepting. You're not getting out there and studying this stuff for yourself. It's weird. Like, so this week, someone came up and reminded me of why the Masons can, on the one hand, claim to be of the Gospels, yet at the higher levels accept that it's Lucifer. And it goes back to the final chapter in Revelation, where Jesus claims that he will send the Son of the Morning for his church. Now, okay, he doesn't use the term Lucifer, but in the Masonic lore, the Son of the Morning is classed as Venus or Lucifer. But then, let's just apply a bit of knowledge that we do know of ancient times, and that is this. In old days, the morning was the moment after the sun went down. That's the morning. It's a new day. Yeah, the day ended when the sun went down, not when sunshine came out at early hours. The new day began as soon as the sun went down. So that's morning. And of course, we have to apply this doctrine to the times when this kind of stuff held sway. So then you look at it again. Morning. Well, we know for sure that the whole gig of Jesus was about raising you from the dead and bringing you back to life, i.e. in common or in law, which is as old as Babylon. So, mourn. Mourning, mourn. Again, we can apply that to people that are mourning the dead. So, was the original church supposed to be about helping people raise themselves up from that shit? Instead, as it is today, they're trapping you in it. So I thought, interesting, but it still doesn't, for me, I don't claim to be right, but it's left unfinished in that they claim it means Lucifer, but then it doesn't, actually. So, are they all thick? Them 33rd degrees and all them? Are they a bit thick, really? They're not as smart as they thought? Or am I talking out my rectum? I don't know, but you apply these things that we know are real. And the morning wasn't when sun came out, it was the moment the new day began when the sun went down. And we've got all this death going down, the raising of the dead and the mourners. And we say, don't we, good morning. So you're expressing this idea, keep on being dead kind of thing. So then if you're going to apply that in the law, then it would surely then apply the same for the son of the morning. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I'd ramble on about that because it got me a bit excited for an hour or so this week. But yeah, it's like as soon as you start to think, that's it, I've got it, it's real. That's exactly what it means. I mean, you're pretty screwed, really. You know what I'm saying? Because you've got to be liquid. You've got to stay liquid. You're looking, you're thinking, you're investigating, you're exploring. And like, when I'm exploring this doctrine stuff, it's more that I'm going, well, okay, that's the official narrative on the interpretation of that particular thing. Let's have a look at it. And usually all I'll find is that the official narrative doesn't stand up when I've looked at it, for me personally. It doesn't mean I've found the answers. It just means that I've seen that actually the spell around the official narrative isn't real. It's garbage, but that's what everybody sucks into and believes. So I'm just happy that I've seen, well, that's not exactly what it means, so I'm not even bothered with that. And you move on, like Bruce Lee said, be like water. Don't ever think you know it all. Just traverse the gig, analyse what you want to analyse, and if it doesn't add up to what everybody else believes, then you know you're not normal. Hip hip hooray. You are entering the wise asylum and leaving the lunatic asylum. Anyway, questions, game, what you want to talk about, anything. We can just play out tonight because I've been pretty shit and I've not managed to put anything together. So I've been bloody busy though. I have been busy. I have. So who's joined us tonight? Lone Rizzler says, evening all, and evening Sean. Good evening to you, Lone Rizzler. Billy Bob says, evening to you, Bill Bob. Jane Elliott says, evening Sean, and evening all. Good evening, Jane. Slipknot says, alright, Sean, Jacqueline, and everyone. Evening, Slipknot. Evening, Jacqueline. Michael Jr. says, oh, Sean, all great to be at the Wise Asylum. Good to see you, Michael. Paul says, good evening, Sean, viewers and chat. Evening to you, Paul. Gary says, love from Ireland, my good man. And love back to Ireland, my good lady. Benefactor, hello, Sean and everyone. Grateful to be here. Big thanks to Sean for uniting us in this amazing space for connection and insight. Excited for a great session. Well, it's going to be up to you guys tonight whether it's great or not, because I'm lazy this week. I've stretched my mind way too much this week. It's bizarre. And all I could do today, piffle about, to be honest. I just couldn't bring myself to apply myself to put something together. I just thought, no, it'll be crap. And we might as well just go with the flow. Blow with the wind. Leaving to you, Benefactor. June says, all them nerds buying electric cars, now they're going to be paying road tax. Well, like that way. I mean, it's same with the bikes, the bicycles. The only reason they've put these bike lanes there is so that they can start charging them tax and then making them get insured. That's why. You know, who's foolish enough to have believed that as soon as they start applying some paint to tarmac, where that God lives, that they're not getting you trapped into thinking, oh, well, get a bike and we're free. No, you're not free. You have to go up pavement to be free. Knocking down the old people and that like it used to be. Yeah, of course. And now they're on about electric trains. Who the fuck will go on one of them when you can see what happens when they set on fire? You're not going to get out. Why would people go on them? But they will. They will, because they're smart. And Benefactor says, Fourth Reich. Yeah, we are in the Fourth Reich, aren't we, if you think about it? The First Reich was what? 1918 to 1933. And look at what happened in the First Reich. Bolsheviks took over Russia. Germany and England had been annihilated as far as its men went. And all the Khazarian Russians had took over all the Masonic and all the positions of power so they could try and force this Schofield Bible. Didn't work. Clergy weren't having it. So they set up Cecil Hotel and blagged all the Ivy League boys and girls from the US and installed the Schofield Bible, and that's why the evangelical movement's so vast in America. And then we had all the shenanigans with the banking, didn't we? They took us off the gold standard. We all went bankrupt and they shoved us up as collateral on the stock market. Now, so if you look on the internet, when people have asked HMRC or the Treasury or whichever, what is this birth certificate? And is it, can it be exchanged for value? And the same response you get back is, no, it's just recording an event. There's no legal fiction created. Now, that's a barefaced lie, isn't it? Which is unusual for the state to send out a barefaced lie. Unless the departments that we're approaching with that question are in fact only holding that thing. But then if it's the Treasury or HMRC, it's a lie. Because the HMRC is taxing that fiction. And the Treasury is collecting the revenues from that fiction. So we've got the Office of Vital Statistics, perhaps, could be important in asking that question. Because if they're making a record, well, that office collects statistics, doesn't it? So another thing to ponder, I suppose, in relation to why a government department's saying that there is no value in the birth certificate, when we know that's a barefaced lie. It's utter shit, garbage. Now, we know we come out of the Land Property Act in January, which was set up in 1925. So I'm thinking, is that the point then at which we go under the UCC? Because all the other countries seem to be operating under the UCC, save for Blighty. And I would suggest it is because of the 1925 Land and Property Act that we're not under the UCC. Unit right, remember, is the law for the private. So the equity, if you're using the equity side, you want to be looking, as well as at the maxims, you want to be looking at unit right. And I've got a piece on the website about unit right. I'll stick that up. So that unit right's your private law. That's what governs the private. And the UCC governs the public, the state. So is that going to be the case that in January it comes under UCC? Because if it does, then so much of what we've learned from what works in America and Canada, and indeed Australia, is then going to work here. Because there's always been a bit of a problem, hasn't there, here, in that we know the UCC doesn't apply here. Because they tell us, I've been told that many times in the past when I've tried to use it. So if that's the case, then it's going to make it easier in respect of using the formats that have already been proven correct by invoking the UCC. So again, that's another point to keep in mind. Because we're always looking for positives, aren't we, in this? We're not always... There's a lot of doom and gloom out there. But we're always trying to look for a positive here in the Wise Asylum. We don't want to be wallowing in the lunatic asylum for any longer than we need to. So again, that's an interesting point. So, First Reich, so much happened in relation to finance and the Bolsheviks being released. And then we had 1933, the New Deal. In came Adolf Hitler on a New Deal. In came Roosevelt on a New Deal. And the Third Reich began. And they pretty much captured the whole of Europe. Oh, also what they did in the First Reich, let's not forget. In 1929, they reformed the Vatican. Chucked out church and just created it as a corporate fascist state, as carried out by Mussolini. So you can see then in the First Reich is where they fixed it all, our estates, to this corporate system, which were described by Mussolini as a term called fascism. And he said, when the corporate realm merges with the domestic state, then that's fascism, or more correctly, he said, corporatism. So the First Reich, we may say, was the establishment of the foundation of this crazy system that we're all recognising exists and trying to work out how you pull things back to rights. And then, of course, you have the Third Reich. Well, actually, no, it was the Second Reich then. Hang on a minute. So the Second Reich, 1980. What was the First Reich? Let me think. With that Crimea and all that, I've got that a little bit upside down. So we were a First Reich. And in the First Reich then, that's when the First World War, Crimea, also maybe even the Boer War, subjugating the South Africans to this as well. Interesting there. And then we have the Third Reich, where everything seems to be being established in this giant corporate state offering you everything on a plate. Social security, NHS, big tax, national insurance, and the point at which they created this duty of care over your health. And now we're in the Fourth Reich, the fourth rule. This is when they're pulling it all together, isn't it? Because, of course, China as well. They pulled in China in the Second Reich. Japan were pulled in. Yeah, Japan would have been pulled in the First Reich, wouldn't it? So, if we go back to the film The Last Samurai, that's when the Emperor pulled himself in with this Rothschild gig, isn't it? And that film itself is showing how they had to get rid of the old, the samurai system, which was just after the American Civil War and the French Revolution. So the First Reich, we're looking at French Revolution. We're looking at the Japanese coming in. And then from that, the Japanese would start to attack China. Opium Wars. Are they part and tied into the First Reich? Quite possibly. Quite possibly. Crimea, Boer War. So Napoleon, he would have had to have been before the First Reich. He was probably the scattermonger who destroyed the vertical rule, if we go with Sean Ross, by destroying all the monarchies in Europe. They'd already taken over the British monarchy by, 1812. They took over the British stock market after 1815. And the reason why they kept up the monarchy here was, of course, because they kept it to front the British Empire, or the Empire, which is the East India Companies. The British and the Dutch and the Portuguese and the Spanish. I mean, even though they were all separate, they were actually all one machine operating for the same families, ordained and moved by these knightly orders that were amalgamated again after the Crusades as the Prussians. It's a systematic destruction when you start to look at it like this. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? It's and as Sean Ross says, they're putting in this horizontal rule, which of course then is corporatism, isn't it? Dictatorship. And we've discussed, you've got the left and the right, both same wings of the same bird, or same sides of the same coin. The left pulls in private enterprise to the state gets bigger, and then of course in come the capitalists and privatise and siphon all that, what once was private enterprise, into their own private hands, which would be into the banks, and then ultimately to these banking families. You can see it. So when you look at it like this, you can see the game, and mosques are just banks. So there's a big mosque that was built here in Accrington quite some years ago, and all the community here had to give the Muslim had to give £1,000 each. That's £1,000 of free money that came out of our pocket, and they don't think they're the empire. Again, ignorance. We've got to this point because everybody's ignorant, because they can't be asked to study stuff themselves. And then when they do, they're editing it in accordance with what they've had thrown down their neck since they were year big. So we're at this point today entirely on born idleness and ignorance. What is it that my people are destroyed through lack of knowledge? Well, I think that's pretty apt, isn't it, to the situation we've got going on today, to be fair. So the Third Reich destroyed Germany. France were already under the Hanoverians, so the King of England was also the King of France. And people forget this. So when you've got these sort of battles going on in America, and it's like the Rebs are getting supported by France, and not against the English or the British. Well, actually, it's a load of rubbish, because they were all two sides of the same bunch, and Johnny-come-latelys. How strange is that? And you can see that when you look. When you look at the actual documents that were being created in this so-called American independence malarkey, it's utter shit, because George is still there, George III, as the Prince of America, and then the Prince of the United States of America. So what changed? Nothing. It just expanded for these people. And none of the people was wiser. Nobody was the wiser. And it's like exactly the same thing that's happening today as we're under the Fourth Reich. I'm just trying to think when the Third Reich would have ended. I wonder if that ended after they broke down the Iron Curtain. Was that the end of the Third Reich? Maybe. Could it be before? Don't know. Well, a lot happened, didn't there, after Second World War? United Nations, Soviet Union, Korea. So I'd say the Third Reich ended with the fall of the Berlin Wall. I guess, of course, we're guessing. And then the Fourth Reich commenced with the let's go and aggravate the Muslims. The Fourth Reich began with that, and now it's pulling itself together in the fact that the Muslims have been thrust everywhere by the empire and are now being agitated to express their art, as it were. Ooh, we're doing some investigating here, and we're doing it on fly. That's about that for a bit of universal help. We're doing it quite well there. So I would say the Fourth Reich began. The fall of the Berlin Wall, and the decision was, let's go and upset the Muzzies. Let's go and upset the Muzzies. And the reason why there's no karmic kickback, do you know why? Because we said no to Blur, us white hunkies, on Blighty. But there were more than enough Muzzies over here and wanting free money. And so they made sure that Tony Blair got in. And therefore, the Muslims themselves began the attack on the Muzzies outside of Blighty and outside of the US and France and all the other countries that got stuck in and involved. And so there's no karmic kickback to these fruit bats. And people still think they're smart. People still think that, oh, God's on our side. We are fantastic. We know things that you don't. Because God's told us stuff, but he's not telling you. What kind of God is it that's doing that? Because if what he's done is set you up to attack your own, and done it in a way that you still don't know that that's what you did, ignorance. Basically, it's thick. Everybody's thick. And that's basically why this game is moving on. And it seems to be moving on at a rubbish rate. So Sean Ross gives us July the 14th as a celebrated date in which bloodbaths have taken place. And he first cites a bloodbath carried out by the Templars in one of the Crusades. And then he goes through other similar bloodbaths, and it always seems to pan out to July the 14th. So maybe, if you go with Sean's timeline, that everything they're doing now, King Cyrus is in, he's going to turn around, this Bolshevik, Jimmy Savile's vagina, going to pretend he's opposing him, and blah, blah, blah. Have you seen all that as well? All these fruit bats that are now government here have been slagging Trump off for years. And now all of a sudden they want to bum him. They want to be his best mate. Well, that's because they are all mates. It's just a pretense. It's a pretense because they're hell-bent on causing havoc here on England. Serious havoc here. I can see it and feel it in my waters. We are being set up like something else because my fellow blighties are just not, it's not up to scratch. They're really not. And they really showed me that in 2020. And it's like, snap out of it. And the only excitement that's going down is Tommy the Tit. Because they need you to attack the Muzzies. And they need the Muzzies to attack us. Yet, that's not the enemy. The enemy is these fruit bats wearing uniforms, wearing suits, shafting you at every level, whether that's council tax, VAT, nicking your fuel allowance, putting the fuel up. And that's another thing. Our energy or electricity and gas is way beyond the prices of anywhere else in Europe. Where do you think they're getting most electric from? Europe. So Europe are actually free. But we're becoming dependent on Europe for our electricity. They've no intention of letting you out of Europe. Boris didn't take you out to Europe. Brexit wasn't implemented. They stopped in prorogue in Parliament, which means shutting it down for 6 weeks, getting rid of all the European human rights law, because they can't. The minute they get rid of the ECHR, the immigration stops like that. They couldn't get you out of Europe. It was a complete and utter scam. But the good news is it showed that there's still enough people on Blighty that are native that when they get off their ass and voted together, they said no. No. Whether they knew what they were doing or not. This is why we have to get out of Europe. Because while that ECHR is in place, immigration is going to keep coming in. Because the human concept is run by the Vatican. And what the Vatican says as a corporate state is what goes. And look at what you've got running it. So, Fourth Reich, coming to a fruition time now. Upset the Muzzies, get them all excited, flood them into the countries that they think are responsible for the crap, because they can't realise that actually they were responsible for it by voting for free money, because that's all they see is free money, so they can have their fast cars and use roads as racing tracks, because that's all they do is buy cars. Kids can starve, wife, it don't matter about, as long as they've got their RS3 and they can go and hire them Lamborghinis and make a racket and buy fireworks. That does seem to be the most important 3 criteria of a modern day Muslim on Blighty. Cars, fireworks, and hiring Lamborghinis. You can't really call them cars, can you? They're like rockets. So, and then people think, well, I'm smart. I'm smart, me. No, it's not smart that's playing this game out. If it was smart, this game wouldn't be playing out, would it? Because ultimately we're all on a path to destroy everything that we take for granted. Because the telly tells you to, or these tits that have suits on, that are claiming to be your government, when in fact it might as well be McDonald's. I mean, if you were on the street at McDonald's, all of a sudden you were driving along the street and this McDonald's van pulled up and said, "Hey, stop, what are you doing, what your ID?" You'd be like, "You what? Go and play with yourself, son." Wouldn't you? You would. Or KFC staff, "Oi, give us your ID." You'd be like, "What?" Well, that is the situation. It's the situation with the police. It's the situation with the councillors. It's the situation with the judiciary. MPs. Fat Fingers and his Medici wife. They're not even king or queen of you. And people think they're smart. I don't know. The Wise Asylum is the place to be. Because everything else is la land. And it's full of fucking lunatics. It's lunatic asylum out there. Tell me. What can I say? So Fourth Reich, that set off quite a storm troop, didn't it? Thanks for that, benefactor. Oh, it's shot up. It's always shooting up. Oh, we've got Jason in the house tonight. He's not lurking. He's here. Me says, I had bought gold and silver. Not one for keeping all the eggs in one basket and did not get crypto. So I bought some to have an interest 3 years ago. Got all fiat out of banks and into crypto. Well, I mean, they're going for crypto, whether you like it or not, aren't they? For sure, and Bitcoin's gone through the roof. Now, I've kept my eye on some of this stuff, and what they're basically saying, the pattern is, Bitcoin's going to go through the roof. So if you have quite a bit of Bitcoin, let it get high, sell 3 or 4. Because then it'll go right low again. Then you can buy another 10, because it'll do it again. So keep that kind of stuff in mind, because everything works in. It's all up and down cycles, isn't it, in finance? Now on bull run with Bitcoin breaking all-time high today at 62,500. At a price discovery, all the others go up too. Yeah. Cos 97.3. Oh, Ninja. Ninja tonight is Cos. How do Cos? Mew says, your crypto's gone a good run this week. Yeah. I haven't got any. Do anybody want to send me a Bitcoin? I wouldn't know what to do with it, but you can send me one. I'll put it on my wall. Or will it get pinched? It'll get robbed, won't it? So if anybody wants to send me Bitcoin, send it over here, Cop. I don't know what to do with it, but I'll have it. Weefy man. The Romanovs were the Kleinhans. It means Little John. Well, that's interesting, because when you consider that Catherine the Great killed the last Romanov, who the hell were them parading themselves as Romanov? We call Nicholas, because they weren't Romanovs. So John, interesting. There's a lot. I mean, Sean, my name's Irish for John. So what's going on there? Is a John conspiracy going on? This one. Evening to you, Weefy Mum. And Moo. Why do Gov buy Bitcoin? Well, it's obviously they're going to use it, aren't they? They're going to use it. To be honest, I used to be on the ball with all that kind of stuff for finance and that. But I sort of got sidelined into other subject matter, and I have pretty much let that kind of stuff slide somewhat. But then for the last few years, I've had 2 pennies to rub together anyway, so it weren't really much point in me focusing on all that malarkey. Good evening, inmates of the Wise Asylum. Hello, Sean. Evening, Mew. Me says, just saying. All right. Benefactor, serve equals DN. Okay. Big E, hey dude, hope you're well. He's no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain that which he cannot lose. Evening to you, Big E. Mew, it's just starting November is always a good pump. 5th of November bought £50 Doji. Just for a laugh, it's 75 quid now. You see, I'm behind on this crypto stuff. I probably need to get my head into it a little bit. You guys need to give me a bit of a lift up here, show me what crack is. And then I can crack on. I'm never going to take over World on that with 25p. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Productivity and efficiency wins. Out of this world, check out Lily Nova. Okay, what's that then? Weefy man, some things I bought I knew now sound ridiculous. Oh, sorry. Some things I thought I knew now sound ridiculous. Well, if you're fluid and you've not come to a point where you thought, I know everything, I am amazing, it's not an issue. It's only an issue for them that all of a sudden think they're amazing and they've cracked it. And then when it starts to fall apart, instead of going, oh shit, I'm a dick. Oh no, it must be wrong. And then you become a philosopher. And spend the rest of your life arguing with everybody to keep what you said were fantastic and amazing as fact. But it's only fact in your own head. So be like water. And then you don't get excited about things. And if things go shit, you just laugh. You go, ha ha ha, I'll not do that again. Kind of thing. Evening, folks, says Weefy Man. Good evening to you, Weefy Man. Liam says, good evening. Good evening, Liam. Tasha Kens, yay, managed to catch the live for once evening, Sean, and all good evening to you. How is the case, Sean? Observation Deck is posting on the subject of council tax. Well, look, it's like I said at the beginning of this. It's the most difficult game to play in because the last thing they can afford to do is let you find a way out. On the record. Because that collapses their entire gig. Think about the money they collect. They collect 47 or 42 million per year just in Ironburn, here where I live. You're lucky if you get 2 million spent back in the town. Yeah? Think about how much money they collect on council tax. When in fact, not a single one of you out there is liable for council tax. A, the liability orders don't carry because in 2003, Form A, which is what you need to create a liability order as a council, was removed and wasn't replaced. So there are no liability orders. They're not real. They're fake forgeries. I've used this term, forgery, in this case, pointing it out. These so-called court orders are nothing of the case. Apply yourself to CPR 5A. Very clear what a court document is and what a court document isn't. Again, you go to the, Some Agency Act. Very clear in there that as these institutions shift from state to corporate, they're not allowed to cite they operate for a monarch and they're not allowed to use a crown seal because they don't operate for a monarch or a crown seal. And yet, what are they doing? Everything that's going on is a fraud. Everything. Because they're hell-bent on stealing your estate and shoving it into this no-hide trust for the third temple to control everybody for a time because they've designated everybody as up for what's it called? I forgot what they call it. What's that term? I forgot. But everybody's been... I mean, you've got to study the no-hides to know that. I mean, Muslims are being told at the moment that they're not idolaters. Yeah, guys, trust me. You are in their eyes because you go with your shins round a black stone, lads. That's idolatry. But as long as you believe that it's not, because the people you think you're opposing tell you you're not, what does that tell you about who's controlling you? Never mind anything else. Again, it comes down to using your brain. Well, not even your brain, your intellect. So Observation Deck's back up. I thought he'd had his channel knocked off. 21 pieces of silver to create silver bond in the private. CTCA, write in English language, they can't. Intended to be easy to understand regardless of one's familiarity with a given topic. Ulick says, hey Sean and chat. Hello Ulick. Who's playing with your comments? It could be YouTube. James, me old China. Where you been? Good day to you. What time is it? Over there. Plain English layman's terms is a model of writing or speaking the English language intended to be easy to understand regardless of one's familiarity with a given topic. Yeah, but it's the grammar, isn't it? That's what they moved from our education in the 60s. And Latin. That's why we're at disadvantage. Where are we? Lol, it's safe to assume you do. Oh, okay. Okay. Lurking of late. We've not seen you. Yes, we've not seen you. I don't comment very often, especially the last few months. I had a major drama going on with the bank. Not been robbing banks, have you, Jace? There's no money in them anymore now. It's paper. Anyway, it's good to see you, Jace. Jerry says, hey, Sean Newlick, Jace gets it back and all the wise asylum. Shaking hands and the thumbs up. Hello to you, Jerry. Martin says, now we're in Operation Paperclip. Well, you know what Operation Paperclip was, don't you? That's when they brought all the scientists over. Not just to America. Do you know there were 4,000 high-level Nazis put into the universities on Blighty, Oxford, Cambridge, Southampton, all the major universities got a share of 4,000 and something, almost 5,000 high-ranking Nazi officers. So the Nazis won the war. They beat Germany, they beat America, they beat Blighty, France, Holland, Spain. Well, Spain already had it all in with Franco. Italy already had it in with Mussolini. So the Nazis won the Second World War. The Third Reich put the Nazis across the entire West. Not the Germans. The Germans are Germans. The Nazis. The Bolsheviks. That bunch of Johnny-come-latelys we've got in here now. And what does Trumpet always do? Well, what's that a sign of? I mean, of course, let's give the guy a chance. He hasn't started yet. So we'll not really say what's what, whenever we don't know. But I do. I know. I can see. I can see it as plain as day, the gig. And how it's going to play. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys now in here can see as well. So we're in Operation Paperclip, says Martin. I think that's worked. You've educated us all to that mind. But if you've got something more to say so, Martin, I'd be interested to know what you're saying. Can they prove their documents are not fraudulent? Can they prove you're not dead? Sorry, can they prove you're dead? No. Who's making the claim you are the name? Who makes the claim has to prove the claim. No, it's all dependent on you coming in as that name. 2 titles, equity, sods off to the crown. But honestly, I've seen the game in this 8 months now, whatever the hell it is. It's a long time and all that. And it's still not over yet. But I think we've tied up one side of it in they're pretty stuck. So now they're going on the other angle. And but this is a bit more simple because this guy goes to court. Now that's much more simple. I will say this to all of you. Unless you've wrapped it up perfect in paperwork, go to court, chaps, but make sure you're on well with what you need because it's just run railroad everything. Blur off they go. Like little shitbags. But the interesting thing is, and I can't say it too much because obviously everything I do is in the private. Because you've got to stay in honour. If you're coming in at equity, you've got to be in honour. So that doesn't mean coming on live stream and telling everybody every detail. But obviously I can give you an idea of the essence of it. But it's come full circle now. And what began has now come back. And it's back to the beginning. And they're pretty stuck. In truth. But you never say never because these Johnny-come-latelys can pull some rabbits out of hats. That's what they're good at. They are the word wizards. They are the magicians. So, you know, but let's just say it's been very interesting. I have learned so much, not only about them, but I've also learned a lot about me and how I present myself. To the point that now, I've done all what I've done for 8 months, but now, this week, I've actually stopped and had another sort of let's say, a reapplication to the way I'm communicating. Again. So I'm having an upgrade myself. So it's not been an easy gig. It's been a mind job, to be honest. It's not easy because they keep you busy. They don't give you time to chill. They constantly come in with something. And then you've got all different people coming at you from all angles. But as long as you rebut, you never accept it, you never tacitly agree to any garbage they come in with. But you've got to be prepared to be bloody busy, that's all I'll say. As one guy says, he ties them up in litigation. I think I'm beginning to understand what he means by that. But like anything, the reason why none of us went to law and to be lawyers is because we're not robots. You have to be a robot, a left-brain robot, a Dalek even, because you have to think like them. And it's not nice. It's not a good place to be as a critter down here, to be all left-brained. Now, it might earn them pets mean prizes, and they might have the suits and the big cars and the status, but it's all glamour. It's all glamour that keeps them fixed in the trick, because they believe it, because they're fixed to the glamour and the status, when in fact, from my perspective, that is a prison. It's a mind prison. And because you're getting the pets mean prizes, what a mistake. And they're not going to realise this until the end of the days, of course. But that's the way this place works. No, then. They have no claim at all. Well, they have a claim, because if you don't rebut it, it stands, doesn't it? I mean, anybody can claim anything about anything, but proving it's a different matter. They never prove it because they can't prove it. They depend on you. So basically what they do is they keep badgering you to trip you up. One thing they do, you can see with the game, is they come from all different angles, and angles you wouldn't suspect. You wouldn't tie it into the game itself to get joined her. Because all they're after is joined her by some method so that in the back room for them, yeah, we got joined her, to satisfy their being in honour. Now, when you don't give them that, that's when you can see them panic. And that's interesting in and of itself as well, by trying out certain things. It's the reaction that gives you the insight as to what's important to them, what they don't like, and what they think they can defeat. Now, that's been a learning curve and a half, as best I can say on that. But it's by far the most difficult game to try and blag. Now, I know there's guys out there that have just from the get-go ignored all the letters, i.e. sent them back, which is fine, because you've no knowledge of anything they're saying, the claims and nothing. And that tends to work also. But knowing where they're going with the game as a whole, I would suggest that's a temporary situation, i.e. you've gone to bottom of pile because it's too hard for them to play with you. And they go to easy and easy, like they've always done. We've always known they do this. You know, you come back to them, they'll put you on bottom of pile. We'll go back to that later. Let's go for the easy pickings. So I know people have been successful in that sense, but it's got to be ruled, hasn't it, in their system. Otherwise, it's always open. They're always going to come back. And as they get closer and closer to being able to use this jackboot, because nobody cares and nobody's paying attention, just huddled up in there going, don't come for me yet. Then I think that's when people that have held safety in that isn't going to work. Same with people that don't believe they're running away, but actually you are. Again, I think down the line, that's something you're going to see. You'll learn that the hard way, my thoughts would be. But we don't know. We're all trying, we're all looking, learning, and we just have to wait and see. I've made some very interesting discoveries here along the way too, says Jace. Good stuff, me old China. Sure away. They have no claim at all. No, they don't have a real one. It's just a Johnny-come-lately blag, innit? It is. They could not even produce the contract. Most important. Now, so for instance, let's say you set up a trust. A private trust. Irrevocable trust. And you make your arrangements, your agreement, you create the trust, you got your trustee. And then you sign NDA agreement. So basically anything that comes to you, you go, oh, well, you need to send it to my trustee. Off it goes to the trustee. If they're asking any questions, sorry, we signed an NDA, we can't breach that contract. They can't force you to break that NDA, so they would break it law. Now, when it gets to the trustee, he's going to say, oh, yeah, of course, yeah, because it's his job. Yeah, of course I'll settle any debt. Send me the contract. Because the trustee is not allowed to harm the beneficiary. And so he can't just pay out money on somebody's blag. If somebody makes a claim, that claim has to be proven. And in corporate world of commerce, it's all contract. If they can't produce a contract, they can't move any further forward. And they can't force you to elaborate because you've signed the NDA. So that's another way of keeping it close and closed off from them. Because any attempt that they may do to enforce or, manipulate you to break that NDA, they're breaking the law. So, yeah, it's some interesting ideas around these trusts, for sure. But right now, I mean, because obviously in the background we're always working to this reversion game, and in truth, I think we've got the data. We have the concept now of what's actually happening. So hopefully I'm going to get a little bit of a respite after this week. And I can put my efforts now back into exactly what it is that I'm trying to do for myself and my flea bags, as it were. And so we now need to just formulate what we've got, analyse it again. You need to... See, the remedy is in the Sesquiv Act, Section 4. And that's what we have to analyse, as well as the maxims of equity. But then, when you go to court, you can actually, to stay in equity, you move it to the prosecutor, who's then holding the charge and the equity. He can settle. And something else that I came across earlier in the year about how we think they're in a fraud, but what it actually is going on is for us to discharge or set off, they need something from us. A recoupment instrument. And that because we don't know the process, we don't know about this recoupment instrument, and therefore we don't produce it. So we don't put it in the mix. They can't recoup in the way we all think we know that it should work. So we're missing something in that respect. We're not doing something that they require in order to set off whatever charge it is they're throwing at you. But there's been some, we've come across some very important data in relation to this. But of course, I don't talk about it yet because I don't want to lead anybody down any falsehoods. And then what I will do, as we progress with this, we'll move it into the private. And so I know there's already out there who have made yourself known to me one way or another. You've helped me out when I needed the help. I don't forget this stuff. You know, this stuff, it doesn't get forgotten. We will. But of course, it's all in the private, chaps. This is the thing, you see. To obtain equity, it's got to be private. So we can only give pointers in the public, as it were. The guts of it, the processes, and the actual data, that's going to be a private gig. And so obviously that's when we'll have to start coming together in the physical, and we'll start to move it in that direction, because it's important that the more people that do it, the more power it has. And you only need 5% of a population to turn things back to where they should be. However, one thing that we're missing here on England is the king. Yeah, they know that, you see. England isn't being upheld because it has no monarch. So it is important that we really start to consider the fact that Ivan is a proven, legitimised Plantagenet, an heir to the throne of England. Not Scotland, not UK, but of England. And so we do these live streams, we have a laugh, we learn stuff, we take the piss out of the lunatics. But ultimately, if this gig's going to have any teeth down the line, it needs you. Not only does it need you to put your oar in, it needs you to spread the word and make it clear that people that don't get the game, that actually there is a remedy, but you're all going to have to get off your fat asses. So, you know, it's there, it's an option that I'm happy to pursue, but it needs a bigger energy than just little old me and Ivan himself. It needs an energy out there that grasp it, see it, understand it, and know why we have to have a king of England. Because the system's still set in place. It's just that the corporates nicked it and pretending to be it, when in fact it's still there. She's there, but it's got no king to put it right. So this is important. I know, you know, but it is important. If you're serious that you want to change things here without going down the Tommy the Tit route, then there it is. Are we civilised? Is this a civilised nation? Did our ancestors create a system to rebut this shitty system that's took over the rest of the world? The answer to that is yes. But it's a vertical rule. It's the vertical rule. How that's going to play out with the occupiers, I don't know. But we are under occupation and we are allowed our expected system and rights and freedoms. So even by the occupation rules, which need a bit more checking, we are within our rights as a people to keep what it is we expect, which is a King of England. And all the data, acts, statutes and common laws that he upholds put back in place, or just reopened, reinvigorated is probably the... But that has been my concern this week, thinking about this, and that is that how does this play against the occupation? Because we don't want to be running around as belligerents. We don't want to be terrorists either. We know we went through it all before. Certain things. It all changes. When you shift into a certain raft, a certain position, you're being governed by this, you're being governed by that. So I'm going to have to revisit those occupation videos and data. I think I put it on my website actually. Just to be absolutely certain we're not getting Ivan into a spot of bother, or ourselves even, by looking at this option, this opportunity. Because it's serious. It's not a joke. It might be a joke to idiots, but it's not a joke if you're real and if you have at least some kind of understanding of how England works and how nations work, you know, we don't want to be a corporation. We don't want to be a corporation under this shit. Because they're dealing with humans. Are you human? No. We're man. Male and female. And we're England. It doesn't matter what colour you are. It doesn't matter what culture you are. As long as you understand England has a set of common laws and you're prepared to abide by them, then England's for you. And England will serve your right to the freedoms that England has afforded Englishmen for centuries. Centuries. You know, and if you're on England now and you've liked where we've been and you don't want to pull yourself under this fucking bunch of dick sticks called ISIS, which is the plan, it's the perfect feudal system. It controls the reprobates, people that are not right bright. It's a perfect system. And all these women, you know, I watch these videos where these women are so... I don't even know how to explain where they are. You really don't realise where that's heading. All this, I'm a feminist, I've got this right, I've got that right. You don't know where that's going if the white males go to war. I do. I know where it's going. And you're in for the shock of your fucking life. And there's nothing you can do about it if that pans out to its end. So for all you wind and pitch, you women, that this sister's doing it for herself, we don't need no fucking males, all males are toxic, you're going to learn why the male and the female are make a whole. And that the males are males for a reason. And what you call toxic masculinity is actually masculinity. Not saying there are not some dicks around, there are a lot of dicks around. But it's usually because they're fruit bats anyway. And they're just using the fact that they're stronger than you to not to balance the situation, but to dictate to you. But see, the thing is, if the male's not dictating, or there's a balance, it's the woman that dictates. And she uses her punani as the carrot to get the control. So it's a two-way show, but that's been lost. And you listen to some of these young ones, they are lost like you can't believe. It's quite worrying, to be honest. It's a sad state of affairs, really. The Boxer Rebellion was about the same time as the Boer War. Right, thanks for that, Weefy Mum. It must be the money says we. Paul says I'm you. I'll email Sean Pal. Oh, good. Groovy. Yeah, I need some info on that. I need to know how to get into this crypto, to be honest, guys. I'm a bit left behind here. My own fault. Not blaming anybody, it's my own fault. Central bank exists, that's proof of who won, absolutely. Absolutely, in the public, yes. Any got the meaning of Reich handy? Rule. Nouveau Laredo, Operation Matchbox in Australia brought the Nazis out here in 1946. Yeah, they were spread across everywhere, in the universities. Yeah, everywhere. It wasn't just them that created NASA. That was just the scientific branch, but all the doctors and everything that made it up, I.G. Farben. Because I.G. Farben, funny enough, which was the war machine without which Hitler couldn't have fought anyone, because Germany didn't have access to oil. They didn't have access to oil like we did in Arabia, and America had in its own land. So Standard Oil, they sorted that out by giving the Third Reich the ability to turn its natural resource, which it had plenty of, which is coal, into oil. And if they hadn't have had that from Standard Oil, there would have been no IG Farben, there would have been no Third Reich coming out to Germany. And you look into IG Farben, the war machine of the Third Reich. It was Ford, Boeing, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Northrop Grumman, Yeah, AT&T, all these GEC, all these mammoth corporations. And if you were growing up at my age, you still had mills around that were once upon a time those companies that were all being shipped out to China and India. They were IG Farben. And then, of course, out of IG Farben came Bayer and ICI and Merck. What are they? Exactly. Came out of IG Farben. Monsanto, a Jesuit operation in its entirety, almost, you might say. Everything came out of that. So it was a confluence of scientific brains creating war, death, biology, all the crap, programming, to then built up in one nation, then spread it across the world. And paperclip, and as you said, the Matchbox, were all these operations in which these high-ranking Nazi experts were thrust across the West into positions of power. In the same way that before the First World War, all these immigrants were coming in from Russia, Khazarians, and they took over the Masonic lodges at high levels, the commanders, and they took over everything else, especially when our men had been slaughtered in the First World War. They did it again after the Second World War. They brought in a lot of the guys from the Caribbean to rebuild, do the labour. But most of the blacks became English without... They didn't give a shit. The only difference were they brought in the weed and they brought in music. And that had an effect on us white honkies because we like music as well. And we like the old Magic Cabbage as well. But they were at the core, the cultural, they weren't at war with the culture. They were at war with the police and the state because they were naturally racist. But, you know, they were when it comes to people, it were all good. Well, you know what I'm saying. I mean, obviously, I'm wearing a black guy, so I can't speak for black people. But from my perspective, the black people I've known in my life have been fucking amazing people. Amazing guys, you know what I mean? I had a general foreman when I worked at Lang's, a huge black guy, Jimmy Freeman. And he was tied in with old boxers in Liverpool. I can't remember the names I found, but they were well-known boxers, you know, in middleweights, I think they were. He taught me so much about myself. Unbelievable. What a guy. A real sound fella. And any other black guys that I've known, you know, as an intimate thing, sound as a pound, and they teach you things. They have a different perspective on stuff. But then now, since the Second World War, look what they've brought in. This is a culture that has its own ideas, that within its own doctrines, it's a war doctrine, and it has ideas about how it deals with invasion, and it's subtle, and then it gets to a point, and then it has a whole raft of criteria that it plays with. They don't settle. However, again, as I've said before, if you actually do become friends with them, and that religious and cultural difference disappears, and you become mates, same thing again. And so all our enemy to all of us is actually these programs that we've had thrust into us since we were kids. That's the problem, because that's where the division comes in. But as man, in the image of, we're all made of the same stuff. It's the program that's different. I've met some people in the last few years, one even asked a question in the general meeting of Lloyd. Says Mew, Private Members Association, own jurisdiction. In the 7 years that my ordeal has been, not once have I needed to prove who I was. Well, you stood there, aren't you? Like they said that to me once. Have you got any ID? I said, do you mean ID? I said, well, who are you? I said, I'm here. I'm talking to you. It's me. Can you see? Yeah. They're like, well, no. I mean, yeah. You know what I'm talking about? I'd say I'm going off. I'm talking to you now, cock. That's me. Right? It fucks them up. It's not that difficult to screw them up. They're fucking Daleks, you know. And they're not even that bright now. They just go on their phones, look at the acts. Have you seen some of these videos? They go, well, under section 69 to 50, and these auditors know all fucking statutes. And they're like, oh, what? What are you on about, pal? And they're on there fucking, oh, Google it, oh, Google it. What the fuck kind of copies are them? What's that? McDonald's. Mark says, evening Sean and all, sorry I'm late. Done my lines in advance. Good man, you can email me later. I'll double check that you haven't been using 3 pens. Evening Mark. Stems from realm, blah blah blah. Oh, it's shot up. Oh. Hey, it's run right up. How's it shot right? My God, you've got a lot to say. Well, that's good. I'm quite stressed out. Yeah, I know what you're saying, mate. It is shit when you get stressed out. It's not a good thing. Where are we here? It's gone right up. Oh my God. Benefact says, running from challenges forced upon us offers no help. No, we must confront them. Like prey in nature, survival requires strength and the right tools. Choose wisely, grow stronger, or risk defeat. Absolutely. You have to fight back. Nouveau Laredo. I can't seem to wake people. It's because they don't want to do, my friend. They do not want to wake up, waste no more time. You know, I learned that the hard way. I've been doing this for such a long time. And you run yourself ragged trying to wake up the brain dead. And it's hard when you're your family and you love them. And else they're looking at you like you were fucking stupid. And you're like, shit, they're brain dead, these people. You know? I mean, I'm lucky. My flea bags are all pretty wise. Wise enough to not to dance to any of this shit anyway, let's put it that way. So I am lucky in that sense. It worked for that respect. But friends, outer family, they just think I'm crazy. Which is fine. I don't really give a shit. It really doesn't matter to me. But back in the early days, I did. And it can send you crazy. Because you're not getting through to them. Because you're coming from a standpoint of, God, you need to see this. You need to wake up, you know it. No. But, so I've learned that lesson a long time ago. And honestly, I don't waste my time with people that are just not interested. Or you know are going away going, oh, you're fucking not... But then if they're talking about you, you're in their head. And now we're happy with that. It doesn't matter. You can call me all names under the sun. Water off a duck's back. Because I don't care. And, yeah, so don't try too hard, my friend. What I do nowadays is if I'm in people's company and the subject comes up, I might just have a little bash. Just stuck something in there. See reactions. If you're getting a blank reactions and puddle duck, just go back to La La Land and talk Coronation Street and Jack and Vera Duckworth and, you know. And they're happy with that. They're happy there then. As long as you don't talk about anything real, just go back to fantasy and they're all happy. You see, it's like people, if I'm in company of football people, I don't even know who's in England team, I don't really care. But if you're talking to them, whereas once I say, oh, I don't follow football, I just go, oh yeah. They feel comfy. Or if they're pissheads, don't tell them you don't drink. You know, yeah. And they're happy then, they love you. And now not smoking weed, I've noticed weed heads. It's like, if they think you don't smoke weed, you know, oh. So I do, yeah. And it's, do you know what? Life's so much easier if you just pretend. Pretend. And it works. But I learned that the hard way. Don't try and wake people up, lad, if they're not interested. Because it does drive you fucking nuts. And it'll send you around the bend if you're not careful. Together as male and female, we co-create this hologram, shaping it with the energy we give. By directing our energy, we hold the power to transform this reality. That is absolutely bang on benefactor. We are the creators. It's who you're in the image of. Your mum, your dad, priest, vicar, imam, rabbi, prime minister, president, king, queen. Who are you as a creator here in the image of. Because when you get down to it and you analyse it properly, you're not in the image of yourself. Not at all. And that's why you have to know yourself. Because how can you possibly be creative as a creative you if you're full of everybody else? I mean, way back in the day when my kids were young, and I started to realise so many of my reactions to me flea bags, they weren't me, it was my dad. And I thought, well, I never liked that when I were a kid. I hated it. So why am I doing it? It's because we don't know any different. We're like automaton. You know what I mean? We're just... And so I started to break that down. And that's where you start to really start to recognise these traits, your subconscious reactions to things. And they're not yours. They're not actually yours. And they're stopping you from actually coming to yourself. And... yeah, it were quite... because I hated the way the way my old fella used to deal with certain things. And I hated it with a passion. And then I started to recognise, oh my God, I'm doing the same. And then it's not... but it's not easy. You have to untrain. You have to retrain yourself. And then all that's happening is you're throwing away the shit and coming back to yourself. And it's a long gig, and I wouldn't say I've perfected it yet. I'm a long way down the path, I know that. A long fucking way down. And but I certainly wouldn't turn around and say, oh, that's it, I've done it. No, not a chance. But yeah, it's we hold the power to transform this reality. But not if we're in the image of something else, because all we're doing then is adding to that bullshit. So yeah, well said, benefactor. Right, German kingdom, realm, state from Old High German. Realm from Proto-Germanic. Rikja, rule. Source of Old Norse. Riki, Danish ridge. Old Frisian and Middle Dutch Reich. Thank you very much, me. Rule is good enough. Don't sweat on others' state of awareness. You can only affect your own. Absolutely. And more importantly, and this is another thing I learnt the hard way many years ago, keep the wankers out of your energy, because they'll drain you. Not only will they drain you, they'll act against you. And normally, this is how these dark cults get into you. You really have to cut yourself off from the fruitcakes. The people that are just nowhere near your energy, get rid. Don't let them in your circle, because, we are energetic creatures, and it affects you. And you can take things in that are not yours, but if you pick them up and play with them, it becomes yours. Like I had a lead guitarist once, brilliant guitarist, but the fucking manic depressive, you've never seen that like it. So he'd come into a game and leave full of fucking beans, and everybody else would be like, oh, no energy left. He just thought he was a psychic vampire. And he didn't know he were doing it, but he was just sucking everybody's energy dry. And that's what these people do. And then if they're full of dark stuff, it's spreading into your fucking aura as well. I mean, I once went to a shaman and she was telling me that some people that come to see her, there's all sorts of creatures in the aura, and she was zapping them like. The stuff that goes on in the unseen that get trapped in your electromagnetic system and then have an effect on your mind, effect on your energy. It's so important that, don't waste your time with nut jobs. Don't waste your time. And when you can see people who are pretending to take it on when you know they're not, again, cut it short. It's not doing you any good. There'll be a drain on you. And it's the same getting rid of what you know is not actually yours. But, and then you're starting to create something good. You know what I mean? But yeah, other people's state of awareness is their state of awareness. Only they can change it, but they don't put the effort in. That's why we're in the mess we're in. Where are we? ECHI. acronym for European Convention on Human Rights, yep. So what is government? People. Well, government is govern the mind. I mean, we looked at this last couple of years ago. Man, at its original meaning, means mind. So when Genesis 1 is talking about in his image, or our image, he's talking about their mind. Yeah. But then we've learned something else, haven't we, about Genesis 1. Again, so we can see how everything's just been played with. McOfficer. Knew it, yeah. Yeah, we have Mr. Jace. It's always good to have you in, lad. We like to see the blue. Mew says, I'll pop over and get you sorted out with a wallet for any crypto that is gifted to you. Oh, Mew, that'd be fucking great, because I really do need to... I mean, I'm hoping I get a bit of a breather. Yeah, do so, man, because I really need to get into this crypto malarkey. Now, a guy did try to get me into it before, a young lad, but my mind was just weren't there. I would into other stuff. And he did try, lad, he did try. And it was on me that I didn't. But yeah, now I think it's time I got me hands in more baskets, let's say. Thanks, Mew, that'd be really appreciated. It really would. Thanks, man. It had luck to gift an empty wallet, Mew. It had luck to gift it. Oh, yeah, because then people could give me gift that, couldn't they? Never thought of that. Now, I know I can open a wallet at my bank, but then that's probably not a good idea, is it? So, no, you guys know the crack, so I'll let you lead the way. June says, the only problem, Sean, they will put a charge on your house if you own your own property. Well, this is why you've got to go to court. So you're stopping them from doing what it is they want to do. Now, the charge on your property is only based on the fact that some tit, at some point, a solicitor, put your property on the land registry. That is their foundation for all this legal claim against your property. Now, if you've got freehold, then by right of freehold, you're not subject to anything. You're not subject to the Crown and its claims. And that's another issue. It's freehold is what you want. But again, even people that have freehold, somewhere along the line, some tit has put your property on the land registry. Now, that land registry has only a bearing on legal. It has no bearing on equity. Okay, so if you don't come in as that legal title, they can't play with that legal realm. If you're coming in on equity, yeah, I should have. So I've watched a few little videos, which I do often, just to keep my mind in this, so I don't forget what we're doing on this reversion thing. And it was interesting, and it was explaining how you deal in court in another manner, but specifically equity. Now, all I'm concentrating on now is equity. I've learned more than enough about the legal, the public, the state side. And then it gets back into the hospital, why your mother's maiden name isn't classed as in the public and tied to the state. And so the product of the womb is tied to the Vatican because of the maiden name, but not until father gives you his surname are you then subject to the state or the legal, the public. Now that's important, very important as a concept to see in your mind, because then everything you've already learnt as well, it's sort of like you learn these little keys and it spreads out onto everything, and so it's another way of removing the wheat from the chaff. You're keeping the good stuff and getting rid of the stuff that you don't actually need. But I can't remember exactly what he said, but it's interesting. You basically, I can't remember the word he used. And I've not got it in this computer. You you thrust it on the prosecution and he's actually holding then the charge and the equity, it can be discharged or set off. And you can do that in any court. There's also endorsing a bill as well. Now, there's always been a lot of ums and ahs. People use UCC. However, UCC doesn't run here. Now, some people will argue that it does because they've had success. But in my attempts in past, they've said, well, you're not under UCC. So they use different terminology. You're still doing the same thing, but they expect a different lingo when you're making an endorsement on the bill sort of thing. And so this is where we are as well with the background. Like I said, we've got the data. I'm happy that we've got the data. And we just need to pull it together now. But we've been hard at it 3 years, me and a geezer of mine, a mate of mine. Solid for 3 years, nothing other than that. And it's starting to bear fruit. We're starting to really understand it. And then, of course, I've had all this last 8 months, which again has forced me to push myself in all different ways in rebuttal. You know, it's always about, they come at you with something and most people go, oh, shit. And at some point during the process, it stops and they come at you. Well, no, you've got to keep moving against them all the time. Where are we now? I'm the loner type. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, Jace. I've had big periods where I've been on my own. Not lonely, because I'm happy with my own company, you know. I'm always busy. I'm never stopped. I'm always doing something. I'm never sat there moping, me. I'm always up to something. But no, I'm happy in my own company. I really am. Very happy in my own company. And I keep my circles small anyway, because of what I was saying earlier. There's most people out there, they're so low grade in the thinking. It's a low frequency. They don't know it, bless them. But when you've shifted somewhere else, that has an effect on you. And so you have to be careful. But yeah, I keep my circle small. Deliberately. And, you know, you're always constantly having to remove people that have not kept up or, you know, for whatever reason. You can't play in all these frequencies without them having an effect, especially when you're trying to keep to a particular level for yourself so that your mind's picking up these concepts that you need to pick up. You can't keep moving down. Otherwise, you have to start again and you lose sight of what you're doing. The banks do rob us, yeah, well, we're giving it them. We're not robbing us, we give it to them, we credit them. Every time you put money in the bank, you are crediting the bank with that deposit. And it's not a secret. You'd have to have a special deposit. Or you'd have to become a secured party in the deposit. As it stands, we're not secured parties. And that's where the problems arise, yeah? Almost 9 a.m. Oh, that's not too bad. Oh, of course, because clocks have changed, haven't they? Ah, yeah, it's better than 5. June, it's already been voted on. 25,000 per house for upgrades voted on by public nudge unit. 25,000 per house? What's that? What do you mean 25 grand? What? John Smith says VAT and council tax were introduced by the EEC. Yep. And almost all the money goes offshore. Yep, it does. You're absolutely right there, John, and welcome. Yeah, it's pathetic. Which is why Norris and Ross summoned the Lord Chancellor and then summoned the Queen. They made him do a speech at IRA, killed him and blamed IRA. And that's his 70s because he said it's treason, she can't sign it. Everything shit came in with. And what were it, 7% or 5% at first? Look at it now. Is it 20%? Gee, and it's got to go to 22%. That's the leveling, is it? It's more even, I can't remember them. I don't know. Upward Dog says, here late, but nice to see Sean and all. Hello, Upward Dog. No problem. We've just had a chinwag tonight. So June asks what's 25 grand for. Your legal name registered property. Silly you on land registry gives property to them. Get person to act as fiduciary to sell property to the living woman for silver coins and person. Yeah. Well, another way is and again, this is something you'd have to do in the private, and that is, you're selling your house. I come in the private. I say, I'll buy it. You create a bill of sale. I give you the remuneration, whatever it is we've determined. Better if it's not fiat. Witnessed by 2 people. That bill of sale is real. Stick it in your private trust. It's out the mix. It's not in your name. It's not in anybody's name. It's in there. But again, it has to be freehold. You can't do this stuff on leasehold because somebody else owns the freehold on that land that the property is built on. But this is how you do this. It's just in the private then. It's in the private. And their system can't touch it. You know, there's all sorts of ways to do it, but there's not enough people that know how to do it that have assets and capital and properties to actually do it. You know what I mean? Most people that have capital are fixed into the system because they didn't know any better. But now they do, and it's time to change that. It's never too late. You know, people going about, oh, it's never too late. It's never too late. The Fourth Turning is a very good read, Sean. Fourth Turning. Right, who's wrote that? A trust could be better. Yeah, I mean, you want a irrevocable private trust. Then, if you're young enough, you want a cash value insurance policy, beneficiary of the trust. And if you can put a big amount in, all the better. And then an amount per month. Now, so let's say you put 100 grand in. After a time, you can borrow 80 grand of that. Do what you want with it. But the balance in the policy stays at 80 grand. Because you've borrowed that money off the payout at the end. Yeah? You're not actually taking it out of the capital. You're taking that 80 grand off the payout at the end of it. And these cash value life insurance policies make compound interest 6% to 8% as a standard. So they're constantly making money. And in that sense then, you'd actually become your own bank. Because you have access to cash and the balance isn't shifting. It stays there. So it's still earning what it were earning when you put it in originally. And then if you wanted to buy properties, then you would perhaps open... you don't really want LLCs. You want an holding company, which is... what do they call them? I can't remember what they call them, right? But after your private trust, you want another company. It's not an LLC, because banks don't like LLCs, because they don't make any money on an LLC. But they do make money on a different one, and I forgot what it's called. And then that's where you can, if you're purchasing something, it's going into that. Beneficiary, again, is the private trust. And you can play off that, but each time, the beneficiary to everything you set up is the private trust. So all the profits are going into this private family trust. Yeah, you just got to use your law for a little bit and understand the concept of how these things actually work. Now, there's irrevocable and revocable. Now, when you look into it, each have their own downside, but ultimately you want the irrevocable because nobody can get into it. A judge can actually order and then move a revocable trust if it gets to A lads A. So it would be better to work out and learn what's required and what works around an irrevocable trust. Yeah. Upgrades carbon bollocks. Well, Trump said that he's getting rid of it. I don't believe that for a second. How could he possibly do that? It'd be good if he does, though. I take it, Jace, the very claim they made relied on paperwork they don't have. Well, yeah, they don't have a contract. Council tax don't have a contract. What they have is, well, you paid it before. So the way that I approach that is information I had no knowledge of came into my possession. You see, ignorance of the law is it's a legal term, they won't have it. But if you have no knowledge of, which is why if you send back your council tax things and never accept them, you've actually no knowledge of that claim. It's no knowledge is the term you use, not ignorance. So if you know knowledge of and then all of a sudden you have knowledge, that changes the game, doesn't it? And that can be why you've changed from paying it for X amount of time to no longer paying it, you're questioning it. Which is exactly what I did, and then presented conditional acceptance with various questions that needed answering on point. Failure meant you've agreed you can't prove the claim, it's settled. Yeah? So this is how you use things like, because remember, if somebody makes you an offer, which is what all these bills are, they're offers, a contract. If you put in a counter offer, then the original offer's gone. That's off the table. The counter offer's on the table. Yeah, that original one, it has no meaning anymore. It's no standing. It's gone because there's a new contract on. Yeah, I'll accept that. These are my terms. Whatever they might be. And if they're not satisfied, you make sure you put it in the gig that, well, you know, if you can't satisfy this, then whatever it is you want the remedy to be. You know what I mean? And this is how you think. You have to think like this, so that you're not a victim. You're in there, you're playing. You're playing against them. But more importantly, it's important that you present your standing as a declaration. And you use that every time you communicate. So you're not giving them joinder, because in your declaration you're making it clear. And that declaration is on every communication you send to everybody. So at no point are you giving that joinder, which is what they're after. That's all they're after, that joinder, that contract with them. And they play some... I've learnt a lot in how they play, and they don't just play in the arena you're in. They'll come at you from all different angles. NHS even. Just to get you to joinder to that, whatever it is they've used in that offer. And if you're not seeing it, and you joinder like on any... In the background to them, you've given them joinder. They can carry on. They're in honour in their crazy world. I mean, it's taught me so much, it really has. All lawyers will side with the bank too. There is that. I had 2 high-end law firms from the city lying to me. Look, anybody that solicits for you that's a member of the Law Society or a bar is an officer of the court. Now, for instance, let's say you've got a court case going on and you need to bring in an expert. You'll pay for that expert. £700 an hour maybe. But that expert to come into the mix, unbeknown to you, has to sign a form with the court. And in that... See, I used to do surveys for people if they had bad building. And the courts would accept it. Now, all of a sudden, it stopped. They wouldn't accept my surveys. Because they knew I wouldn't fill in this form. But that form that for these experts, unbeknown to you, makes it clear that even though you're working for you, they're working for you and he's paying you, you're now working for the court as a court officer. And that you have to obey whatever the court wants. And that's what happens. Anybody that comes into any case today, whether you're hiring them or whether the prosecution's hiring them, is an officer of the court for that period, for that case. So naturally, who do the courts work for? The banks. They're securing your credit. So they're always going to side with the banks unless you prevent them from doing so by not offering up the credit, which means not coming in as the deadest the dead estate, the deceased estate. You never once employed. You will never do, ever. No, no, no. And if you do, instruct. You don't say, what can we do? You go in there and say this, that and that. Off you go. Because if he's soliciting for you, you're telling him what to do. But that's not what people think it means. People go, oh, help me, do what needs to be done. No, you are a lawyer. I mean, when I had one last, I told him what to say. But that's many, many moons ago. Funny that, Jerry, it's even by the bylaws of a prominent legal institute here. They got to have an enforceable claim, yes. Or your contract. No authoritative person, but as fiduciary equals authority. You are the boss. Yeah, we may have to talk about that a little bit further sometime, me. I get what you're saying, but I'd like to fully understand exactly what you're saying. Is it a bit agent principle kind of thing? You're the beneficiary of the legal bond called the birth certificate. Or you're the beneficiary of the live estate, the equity. The legal bond is actually it's the debt side of things. That's where the set-off comes. I'm acting as a fiduciary for Mr. and Mr. and carry full liability. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Somebody uses that uses that as principle, and then agent is the debt side. Michael Ferry-Burr, knuckle flighty champion, sentenced to 22 years for 53 kilos of cocaine. Great guy set up. When's that lately? Digital energy encrypted, can't be copied, modified or reproduced. Set limited number equals scarce. Well, it's all French to me at the minute, this crypto, because I'm way behind on it. Morty says, the Lord Prayer we used to say in assembly at school was about procreation to create wealth for the Lords in Parliament. And it's Amun-Ra. I could never say it at school. Never. I could never do assemblies. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. No. Kerry says, waters above, look him up. Waters above. Okay. I use my thumbprint to endorse the bank gyro credit slip. Yep, in red ink, and then autograph. Make sure your autograph is on the thumbprint. He said it, and I believe it, and that's that. Dead count thumbprint if required on the document, absolutely. Well, that's your notary. I mean, a notary is only actually, he's not notarising the contents of the documents you're giving him. He's notarising the fact that this document is of you, it coming from you. That's what notaries are doing. So when you put your thumbprint on, you're showing it's you. And by rights, that is a notarised document. Dime Boy, you are not a person, but you have a person. That's right. It's a tool. So respecting or worshipping a tool would be dim. Absolutely, Dime Boy. You're absolutely bang on. Autograph back as beneficiary. Absolutely. Yeah. And settler even as well. Because if you're in a mix and you want to appoint the trustee, then you'd be doing that through the title of settler in the trust, wouldn't you? I mean, you can put in your trust deed that you can appoint and such, which is that's when you're creating your trust deed for your private trust. The more you get in there of import, I mean, I've always tried to work. I'd like to know what their deed is, because Rolex is a trust. Because that's been going for some time, hasn't it? Autograph back as beneficiary. June says, that makes sense now, Sean, with this proxy leasehold. There's so many properties in my area now, and they take a load of money off you for management fees. Yeah, Right, you're freehold. Make sure you've got your deeds yourself. Get them at home. And then start looking at creating a private trust, June, and stick it in. NDA it. Solid. You don't own that property as a named person then. Your property is safe. They can't come for that no matter what happens down the line. Do you know what I mean? My mum and dad created me, no one else. Freehold is free to hold, June not own. All land in England belongs to the Crown or the... Well, it doesn't. That's a falsehood as well. They claim it, but it doesn't. Me and God, says Dime Boy. Well, I use now Father of the Beginnings, now that we've reinterpreted Genesis 1. You see, I don't like the term God because it's ambiguous. Every man and his dog out there has got the God, and they're all talking shit, different shit. So I don't like that term at all, I really don't. And no one else has authority over my maker. Benefactor, to merge, combine, or cause to combine to form a single entity, which balance the books, debt and credit equals 0. Only value on this planet is you, absolutely. But we were born as creditors, or we not. Benefactor, Venetian double entry book entry, yeah. No wallet use platform called Coinbase. It's safe, no use transfer fees. Okay. Gives you private wallet for each purchase. See, I don't understand exactly what you're saying there, so I have a lot to catch up on, I think. And bills of exchange. Absolutely, bills of exchange, that is where you need to go. Because, you know, if you present a proper bill of exchange, it can't be refuted. All commercial courts use UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. But I've had trouble with these courts here, and they said they didn't use UCC. And I think when it comes to January, when we're off the land and the Property Act has ended, I think then this blighter is under the UCC. And as I said, it should make things easier because so much of what comes out of the US is all under the UCC. So, yeah, rule of contracts, absolutely. But it's as though they've forgot the rules of contract when you get into it with them, you know. There's nothing easy. You've got to put it absolutely, it's checkmate. It's checkmate to nothing. Checkmate to nothing. And it's been a hell of a chess game that they've forced us to play. I'd say they used the principles of UCC via Bank of England 1882. Well, I think, yeah, they're not going to be able to just get away from that when it comes to January because, of course, the Land and Property Act ends. So we'll have to see. But, like, if that's the case, that's actually a plus for us here. Yeah, it's definitely a plus for us because I've had shenanigans with these people for so many years. Even one time I did something, they told me they didn't recognise the Bills of Exchange Act, and I'm like, what? What? Anyway, but yeah, it's been a journey, I'll say that, and it's not over yet. But never mind. Anyway, well, interesting, just good conversation. You all had some good stuff to say, which is good. Graham Moore runs a case in Texas in New Year. What do you mean runs a case? What do you mean? Runs a case in Texas. What do you mean, Moo? Runs a case. What's he doing over in Texas? Anyway. Well, chaps, thanks for joining. Thanks for taking part more than anything. I hope we learned something tonight. And we didn't really have to delve into La La Land, which is always good. We don't have to infect our minds with the garbage out there in the lunatic asylum. Taking a case to court, suing someone. What for? Well, that'll be interesting. A court case, Sean, as he's been shafted in this country. So he's been shafted in this country and he's took him to court in Texas. Is that what you're saying? Who shafted him? And why? Because Tommy Robinson, you know, when I looked into it last time he got jailed, he keeps getting jailed for contempt of court. The King in Texas. King in Texas? Who's that? Oh, I don't know who that is. An indictment on the King. All right. Universal Court. Right, no problem. Sweet. Okay. Well, thanks again for joining, chaps. Sorry I didn't have something of real substance for you tonight, but let's see what we can come up with next week. Let's hope we have a decent week. Getting into winter now. Well, not quite. See, now that's another thing. I forgot to mention it last week. Excuse me. But Samhain. Now, we celebrated on October the 31st, which is what we've done for a long time. But however, if you go into astrology of it, the true Samhain is on the 21st of November. So we're still in autumn. And the event isn't until the 21st. So if we're going with the proper astrological clock, which I think we should, we haven't hit Samhain yet. So anything important going on around the 21st, you can assure it's coming through all the knowledge that's afforded to Samhain. So it's important. With that, chaps, I will say, till the next time.
electronic